Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Abella and I am a tax accountant, business advisor in the greater Seattle area. It's been a while since we've done one of these updates, so bear with me. We're going to run through updates and changes on 8 to 10 Washington state programs or agencies. I'll have timestamps down below, but I'll also try to keep each one brief. Whether you're a business owner or not, if you're in Washington state, at least something in here should affect you. First up, Washington Cares. This is the program that provides long-term care benefits, started about 3 years ago, and Washington residents can now start applying for CARES benefits starting May 18th for benefits that will start July 1st. There are some counties that are in an early pilot, so it may be possible to get benefits earlier. So if you or someone that you know or love needs long-term care benefits, definitely look into this. You normally have to have contributed for 3 years, but as this is a transition period, if you were born before January 1st, 1968, and you've contributed at least a full year, there are benefits available for you. $36,500 is the full lifetime benefit, though it will adjust for inflation over time. Care providers can also now register to create pre-authorizations and submit claims. So there are definitely things going on with Washington Cares. Washington paid family medical leave. The premiums increased again for 2026. There were some additional changes to enhance job protection if your employer has more than 25 employees. They made the leave a bit more flexible. If you just missed 4 hours of work in a week, you can still claim benefits. It used to be 8. And they've expanded the grants available for small businesses to help offset the cost of bringing in additional staff to cover someone's leave. Washington Employment Security Department. There is disaster unemployment assistance available. So you may remember during the COVID years that you could get unemployment even if you normally weren't eligible. This is that same provision. So if from December 5th to the 19th, when there was all of the flooding, if you were impacted by that, your workplace was damaged or inaccessible, you may file a claim for unemployment even though you normally would not have qualified for that period. Washington's estate tax. The threshold, if you are dealing with the estate for someone who has passed away between January 1st and June 30th, 2026, the threshold for a Washington state estate tax filing is $3,076,000, and the rates had increased a little bit for this 6-month period. That threshold falls back to $3 million after July 1st, but the rates do come back down to what they were earlier in 2025. Indexing for inflation will resume again in 2027. Washington's capital gains tax. Not much to report here. A tier was added a year ago, so you pay 7% of the first $1 million of taxable income, 9.9% above that. The 2025 threshold was $278,000, and the tax only applies to long-term capital gains. Washington's working family tax credit. So on the other side of the spectrum, if you qualified for the working family tax credit or federal earned income credit, they use the same thresholds. If you qualified for 2022, time is running out to file and get that credit. The credit ranges from about $300 to about $1,300, depending on your income and the size of your household. So if you are a low-income household, definitely look into that credit. Washington Saves is a newer program. It doesn't kick in until next year, 2027. It is a state-administered IRA savings account for workers that don't have a retirement plan through their employer. Employers will only be required to join if they've operated in Washington state for 2 years or more, employ the equivalent of about 5 full-time employees, and do not offer another plan. There will be no fees associated with that. So if you're an employer and you're worried about it, we can definitely chat about that if you'd like to ask questions. If you're an employee, you will be able to opt out, but it is an option for you to participate in a retirement plan even if your employer does not offer one. Washington state sales tax rates increased again July 1st. There were some rate increases April 1st as well. A number of cities have added a local law enforcement 0.1% or 0.100%. Some of those cities for July 1st are Auburn, Burien, Chelan County, Island County, Thurston County, Woodinville. There are a number of them. Please make sure you are always using the most current rates using the lookup tool on dor.wa.gov or using their app on your phone. Washington Department of Revenue also released a new industry guide for World Cup related activities. So if you have a business or are renting out your house or providing parking, any of those things, this guide addresses those types of activities: admissions, lodging, marketing, merchandise, rideshare, parking, players and teams. All of those are topics within that industry guide. The legislature also made a change to the new sales tax on live presentations. So in October of 2025, this new sales tax had gone into effect for live presentations, which had been a pretty broad category. It impacted some situations that I don't think the legislature had thought through. So they fixed it with some legislation, and Washington Department of Revenue has issued guidance on that. So effective July 1st, 2026, they're now exempting again before and after school care provided by an elementary school, presentations given by nonprofit organizations, which is huge, music lessons regardless of how many people are in that lesson, and incidental instruction related to music and dramatic performances and such. So I know that is a very helpful and welcome change. Unclaimed property, in a bit of a tangent, the Department of Revenue is holding an online auction this week, May 13th through the 20th, for unclaimed property from abandoned safe deposit boxes. So if you have a safe deposit box and you stop paying the fee and the bank can't track you down, they turn that over to the state. The state holds on to that for 5 full years, and then they auction off the items within that safe deposit box. The auction proceeds are then held in the safe deposit box holder's name to still be claimed later. So if you have any of that property out into the world, definitely go to the state unclaimed property site and search for your name and see if there are things out there. Information is available in the link below. New legislation: the capital gains tax can now be prepaid up to 6 months in advance. I don't know why you would like to do that, but you can do that starting this summer. And now for the topic that everybody has been asking me about: income tax in Washington state. So there's a new tax on the books for Washington state. If you have income basically on your federal tax return, if your adjusted gross income on that federal tax return is more than $1 million, regardless of whether you are single or married, filing jointly or separately, $1 million. There are some adjustments, but if your income's over $1 million, there's a new tax of 9.9% on the earnings over that $1 million. There is an adjustment, a credit for the tax that's required to be paid under Washington state's capital gains tax, so you're not paying double on those capital gains. This tax will apply to income earned in 2028, so tax returns filed in 2029. So there is definitely a period of time for a legal challenge and for the state to figure out how to administer this. On the positive side, the bill associated with this also would increase the small business credit for B&O tax to $250,000. So if you are a small business, if your revenue is less than $250,000, you would not have to pay B&O tax. You would still be remitting the sales tax that you collect from customers if that applies to you, but you wouldn't have to pay B&O tax, and that can be a huge help, especially for our service businesses. It would also expand the working families tax credit that we talked about earlier that's affiliated with the federal earned income credit for low-income families. It would also fund free school breakfasts and lunches, and those provisions wouldn't take effect until 2029, so until the tax revenue had started coming in for this income tax. So these are all of the facts. I have opinions about having the limit not adjust if you were married And I will be interested to see what happens with the courts if this actually happens. But these are the facts. This is how the legislation was drafted, and we'll just have to wait and see what will happen from here. In the meantime, we've got a couple of years still to wait and to plan and to see what will happen. So that is all I know about that for right now, but I will keep my eyes open for more information. As always, if this was helpful, please click like. If you have questions, comments, anything that I can address, please not just ranting about Washington State, do leave a comment down below. Subscribe if this was helpful and you'd like to see future content. And my content has become more sporadic. Sorry about that, but I hope to see you again with a future video. Have a great day.